There we are.
Hello, how are y'all?
Well, hello everyone. Guess what? It's that time again.
Time for what?
I think we might have missed a few of you last week. I was a little bit busy and couldn't find my way back here in time, that's for sure. So here we are today. I guess we're kind of off a week now, aren't we?
Yeah,
On an
but that's
off week.
okay.
That's
I've
okay.
been-
Catch up some new people. Maybe they are on off weeks. But we're going to talk today. She's loading us up right now with our other connections. And today, guess what? Got another topic. And we're going to talk about what? We're going to talk about friending your spouse. Have you friended me? Of course she has.
Did I friend you?
Not
Why
friended
would
me.
I do that?
So, that's kind of where our topic is today. We're going to figure out what do we need to do in friendship and marriage and relationships.
So introduce us.
And, yep, I'm Todd, and this is Michelle, and this is another episode of What Really Matters. And, of course, when we talk about what really matters, we're talking about the relationship within and everything having to do with God's way. So we want to make sure that we...
Well, we try to make sure that it focuses on
Right.
what God's Word says. But that doesn't mean,
Those are
if-
the guiding principles, and then we talk about the specifics that happens in everyday life that we come up to or fall down on, things we've tripped over, things we've succeeded at. Pretty honest about the things we do and don't do very well, and that's what we're just kind of keep
And
it
even
real.
tonight, boy, y'all are gonna get some stuff because I'm in a mood.
She's in a funk.
I'm in a mood, y'all. Really, we've actually been tested a few days here.
Tested.
Tested a little bit. Tested.
1, 2, 3, testing.
Yeah, no, we've been tested.
Yes.
It's still testing.
Tested.
Anyway, so while we're waiting for people to come on, we're gonna get started because I don't like waiting. Because if you're already on here, you're important
You're
to
like,
us.
what? What's going on?
Right,
Why
so
we-"
why are we waiting for other people? Why? Because I don't want to be waited on either. I mean, I don't want somebody to ignore the fact that I'm already on.
You
so,
didn't mind it at lunch.
and
I see
you're
what you
so
did there.
funny. You're so funny. So anyway, I can't really see very well. I'm on.
That's why she's kind of doing this number.
I can't.
Today-
I got some issues. They put me on some steroids last week, and because I couldn't breathe, and
They've turned her into Mrs. Magoo.
I
Who's that? Most of the people are saying.
right. I can't see. I don't really feel well. I have some issues, and I was just like, oh my gosh, I sure hope we don't do this tonight. But we didn't do it last week, so we
felt
decided we
compelled.
would go ahead and do it tonight.
That's right.
And so we're going to talk about friending our spouse. But if you see me like kind of squinting or acting weird or maybe or just not being myself, it's the steroids, people, and I cannot wait till they're out of my system, which will be a couple of weeks. So anyway, I hate them.
Hang on.
But I
Hang
can
in
breathe, so there's that.
There. You
My
can
lungs
breathe.
are working.
Let me tell you something.
They're open.
It's a big difference. She was having a really difficult time. It was like almost hospital time on a couple occasions. And we actually drive around with a machine in the car. We learned that lesson a long time ago, and she hasn't had to have it for years. And for whatever reason, this year is especially
It was
difficult.
crazy
Pretty
right
well
now.
starting from August, I would say, is when
No,
Yeah.
I haven't had anything.
You had a little bout back
Last
then, but-
October, I had a little bout, but I haven't had anything since then until now. And now it's kind of like whatever. So
Yeah.
we're a little cray tonight because I can't see and I don't know, steroids are just awful. But anyway, we're going to talk about,
you being my friend
let's talk friendship.
and me being your friend
Yeah.
or something like that. Did I get
Yeah.
it backwards? No, I don't think
Yeah, no. Well, and I'll tell you why we came up with this conversation. We've got a lot of newlyweds right now in our lives. 2 of them are our own kids, and
Right.
several at church. And we talking to one of the newlywed couples. We discovered that one of their dynamic issues to start with in their first few months of their marriage was they don't know each other, not like they should, and there's no friendship. And so I thought, wow, I bet that's kind of maybe a problem for a lot of other marriages, and especially with people even our age that we've seen.
Sure.
And so we thought, because one of our big things is we are friends. We didn't start off. A lot of times people say, "Oh, well, the best relationships start off as friends," and that's true. There's a lot of good marriages that start off because you have the friendship basis. Now, technically, we didn't go that route. We built the friendship along the way,
I was gonna say.
but it's kind of nice. And so just because you're married and you're still needing to build the friendship, that can come. But it was
You're an
also
extremely friendly person.
Oh yeah, and so
I am.
it was kind of funny because I know that my daughter and her husband are really good friends, and they play games and they hang
Right.
out and they just like being together. And our sons came home this weekend for a wedding, and the oldest son was like, when he was kind of sharing his stuff because they were doing bachelor party and whatever with the groom, and he's like, it's really neat because Katie and I are friends. And then he starts telling us some of the things that they do, where they play and just the hanging out and the different things. And so it's nice to see that our kids have grown up and built the friendships and working on that with their marriages too, especially after seeing some others that are young that have not done that. So we're going to kind of talk about why it's important to have that going on. You need to be friends.
It's nice
So-
to have a mate, but it's way better
And if
than
y'all
the longevity
comment,
to have a friend.
I'm just going to tell you right now,
She
I
can't
am
read.
not going to be able to see it.
That's all right.
These
Well,
steroids
do it
have
anyway.
me totally blind. I see
Don't
people
listen to her.
coming
Do it
on.
anyway.
I see people coming on.
I actually can
know.
see them right now.
I am not going to be able to read it because there's just a fog right here. And normally I can at least squint and do this. Not going to happen. So we'll answer y'all later. So just say it. Go ahead and comment. I just don't know if I'm going to be able to do it or not. Okay, so you have number 1. We've got these broken out into 8, but I did reduce it down to 3 pages. So, y'all, normally it's 10 minutes a page, and I'm trying to get it down to where we're not doing
Well,
5 and 8 pages.
We kind of thought it was. We took it for granted the fact that people were friends when in a
Making an
marriage
assumption.
relationship,
Right.
But because we've always been together 24/7, that's actually part of the relationship that we almost forgot to even talk about and foster because it's so embedded in who we are, and that's kind of where I'd like to see a lot more people get. Not in terms of taking it for granted, but to be so embedded in there that it seems to be just kind of always swirled in with us everywhere we go. And
We have a different relationship.
we
than a
do,
lot
and
of
I don't mean
people
in terms
have.
of that. I
A
know
lot of people don't want to be together 24/7.
I don't get it. I don't understand it. That's a weird relationship to me, but I do know a lot of marriages make it that way, and I'm like, I don't know. I'd like to be with you, and
Okay, let's
so
go.
those are kind of part of what we're talking about. So some of the things we're talking about today seem pretty commonsensical, but you know what? There's a few items in here that you are like, oh yeah, that would have been good if I remembered that or thought about
and
that.
there will be some of these topics that we tell on ourselves, and there's 2 of mine that I'm going to actually
She can't
have
wait to get into me today.
No, these are actually going to be addressing myself on, and it's like because right now, let me tell you something. This dude he deserves to be. No, I'm kidding. I'm
No,
playing.
she's not.
I'm kidding.
She's gonna stab me and pull the fork out a couple of times tonight.
Get started. Let's go. Get started. You're number 1. Woohoo!
yeah,
You're
number
number one,
one.
baby.
All right, that means the first thing we're going to talk about, obviously, in the relationship of friending some of each other, the easiest part, having fun
Okay.
together.
Can I just say this real quick? Sorry.
Are you going to switch my numbers around?
No, I'm just going to pull this out right now. I want to start with it. Proverbs 17:17 says, "A friend loves at all times," and so I think that for the most part, we can apply that to our children, to our friends, especially in public or at church or at work. And you're just nice to them all the time, and it's harder for us to be nicer at home with our spouses and our kids and our whatevers, the immediate family, because you're at home and you're more comfortable together. But we're supposed to love each other at all times. And so that's something that I think people need to work on. I mean, that was one of our things.
Is that easy at all times?
No, it's not easy at all times. In fact, there's times I don't like him, and I'll tell him, I don't like you right now, because just go away. And I have no problem with letting him know.
I've heard that a lot in the last 5 days.
Really?
Yeah.
Not in 5 days. No. Oh, y'all. He's going to get off of here and get in some real trouble. You
I'm
don't
gonna
even
push
know.
it.
Get started.
Because we're on camera doesn't mean I'm safe.
Not at all.
All right, obviously we're together all the time, but other people have fun together. Don't just work together. Don't just do married things together. You know what I
Right.
mean.
Yeah, don't just do the responsibility business part of it
Yeah,
together.
you know, it's not
Right.
just about the facilitation of marriage, and it's not about just having a mate. It is about enjoying each other and knowing who each other truly is, and you generally find out who those things are. Just like when you were dating, you discover who each other are by doing things together and sharing in those things and finding things that you're common and things that you're not common that pull you together.
Right, and as you grow, you're going to find out that there's things that the other one likes to do that you don't, and that's
No
okay.
kidding.
Right, but you still need to do those things together and find out what makes the other one happy.
Right.
I mean, just like you would a friend, if you've got a new girlfriend, ladies, you know, maybe she doesn't want to go get a pedicure, but maybe she wants to go antiquing. What would you do? Well, you would go get you'd go antiquing because you're wanting to build a friendship. It's not any different.
Right. It's a little easier when you have a group of friends. You have, 10 friends. You can pick the ones you
Yes,
want.
Crystal,
so
true.
You want to hang out with the ones you can hang out with. But guess what? When your best friend, you're trying to generate your best friend being your
spouse.
wife or spouse. Then you gotta all of a sudden got to work at it a little bit sometimes. It's not just a matter of you can't just pull that other friend over anymore. You got to go do some things, and it's not that common. If you love the person, it's not that hard to do. But we're talking about doing things. This is the first portion's talking about doing things together. We're talking about games, movies, hobbies, shopping, bowling nights. Here's some things I listed that I like to do that will drag you along with. Top golf, shooting. We love to TV binge, right? You like to watch some things with us?
Some things.
Some things.
Not most of your stuff.
Yeah.
And I think we watch TV way too much.
Yeah. You like to drive. You like to do things like that.
I do. I want to take a trip.
Yep.
I always want to go on a trip. And Stranger Things, I'm going to binge watch with you. That's going to be fun. And I like, I just like traveling.
But do not ask her to watch Lost in Space. It ain't going to happen. Nope.
No.
Something happened one time, and that was it. I don't remember what it was.
It was just an awful show.
Yep, awful.
Just an awful show.
Well, it's okay. It's not. Season 2 doesn't happen yet at all.
That's okay. It shouldn't. Anywho, so you also need to get excited about what they get excited about. So we've already covered, and some of this is going to sound mundane and like monotonous, and you don't
sure
know
does.
it. But at the same time, when we've been talking to others, we've discovered they don't know these basic things. So you need to get excited about what they get excited about. You know what? I could give a rat's hiney about politics. Seriously. But
we all have our flaws.
But he loves politics. So what I do is, I keep up. I can have conversations with him. In fact, I can tell him things that he hasn't read about yet or whatever. And then I'm like, boy, you should be in love with me right now.
I take that challenge.
I get excited about what he gets excited about, even though it means nothing to me, because that's how you build the friendship. And it's the same thing when you're building a friendship with, if he's got guy friends at church or work, which we don't really have any friends at work because there's only 5 of us there. So, we just work. But, whatever. You want to do those things in those friendship relationships. This applies whether you're building friendships with your children, building friendships with your spouse, building friendships with others. Everything we're talking about is the concept of you're going to give of yourself to learn the other person. And people get married and then they take on the role of husband and wife, but they forget the friend, and the friend is the big part of that. And so you have to get excited about what they get excited about. I'll tell you, I'm not into the politic things, but I am enough so that I can, entertain him enough.
Entertain me.
Well, it's not fun and exciting for me. But then he doesn't necessarily want to do makeup either. And yet he does makeup with me. So, y'all have watched him in videos and make commercials, and he's very supportive. And you think he wants to give his time doing that? I don't think so. But he
It's fun
does.
once we get started.
I mean, the thing is, we've learned to be around each other enough where we enjoy each other. So even in those things, we enjoy it, and that's why we do those things. And so we've learned to even like doing the when he went with me to San Antonio. And if y'all have been watching us, y'all know this all started last year when we went to San Antonio, which was not something he wanted to do. I believe that was a God ordained trip for us to be able to start something like this because that's where it started. And
Especially if you know how I feel about San Antonio.
That was not. He hates San Antonio, and anyway, so you know, he sacrificed for me, and we actually there was such a connection on that trip that was stronger. Sitting up all night like we did when we first got together.
It's true.
Set up all night for 2 or 3 nights in a row, just talking to each other.
I mean, I couldn't get a word in edgewise at the beginning of the evening, but that's because it was from a bird that was outside our B&B
That bird
place
was crazy.
But
So
once the bird got quiet, we actually started talking.
we're going on to.
Or was it me already
So
learning?
if y'all coming on, say hi, tell us hello. I can't read your comments. I do see people coming on. It does.
Yep.
I can tell the
That I
green
can read
bubbles
easier.
are there. But I'm having a hard time seeing, and I'm having a hard time focusing because I'm on some heavy steroids, and my brain is not even, you know. So I don't
Not
know how
even.
well this is going
Not
to go.
even.
But we missed last week, so we want to make sure we do it. We're on number 3.
All right, number 3, we're going to talk about learning their weaknesses, their fears, and love them anyway and love them through it.
Right.
We're shocked as many times as we talk to people that so many times you ask relationship questions and they're very superficial.
Right, or they
and
don't.
lack-
they don't have answers
They
about
lack
their spouses.
history,
Right.
they lack depth,
Yeah.
they lack empathy, all those things. And it's
Right.
because they haven't stored enough information for them to adequately deal with the friendship when it becomes a more strained,
Right.
plus or minus. It doesn't matter. The plus sides you won't understand any more than the downsides if you don't have the reasons why these things are doing what they're doing.
Well, and it speaks to the fact that, so if you were just my girlfriend, I'm just going to pull Megan out. Megan's one of my friends, okay? So if she and I are going through something, let's say we get into an argument over something, and we're not. So, Megan, when you watch this later, there's nothing happening. But let's just say there is.
Let's
the thing
make
is,
something happen.
depending on what's going on, we know each other well enough to know. We know our history. We know that there could be, well, there must be
Well,
something
what
going
might have
on with this
generated
person.
that?
What generated her saying that? What did this? And it's not any different with your spouse. What generated this? And then you learn to communicate. Communication's a big thing, and that's got to be a topic we cover too, because even like in the friendship when you communicate, and this is what we're going through right now with me being on steroids, this is where he's going to get blasted because you've got the word triggers down here.
I know, I wrote it to trigger you.
And let me tell y'all something. I told him
It's just the name of a horse.
told him last Thursday, the doctor's putting me on steroids, and you know, after about 4 days, there's going to be a couple of really rough days, and I've asked him to like be gentle and kind and wonderful, and nope, not at
I've bit
all.
my tongue 3 times in the last 3 sentences. See,
Not-
I'm doing great.
Not at all. Not
I-
even. And so he knows. So my point with that was not trying to point out that he's not doing something
Just wants to
right.
point out my flaws.
No, because my flaws are coming up. I've got them in my next paragraph. My point was that I communicated to you ahead of time.
You did. You're very good about that.
I
If you do this, I'm
communicate.
going to yell at you.
So as your friendship grows, you want to communicate, especially when you know, like, you're getting angry over something or you need help with something. You very calmly say, you know, this is what's going to happen. Here's where I'm at. And I need you to kind of work with me on this. And when you do that, you make yourself vulnerable and open.
Yep.
And then he or she, depending on which spouse is doing this, is able to work with you. And then that still builds more foundation underneath for the friendship. And then Hold on. My brain's kicking in. So when you do this, just a minute. Oh my gosh, now you're laughing at me and I have forgotten. Dang. Okay.
Will it help if I do it too?
No. Just a minute.
You yelled at me the last time I did it.
Just a minute. Okay, so anyway, it makes it easier especially when you open up and the person responds properly. And actually, and they listen and they adhere and they understand and they, whatever the thing is that's being asked of them, and they do that.
Laughing at them is not properly.
No, and that's what he's been doing.
Example.
So, but it opens up a trust. So then you have that trust for each other.
Right.
Because then it's like, okay, now I can come and tell you these are my true feelings, right?
Right. That way there's no misunderstanding.
So there's no misunderstanding.
But you got to get to that point. So it means you got to practice that. It means being vulnerable, talking to each other, saying the things that are really true. Don't make anybody have to guess. You get that off the table, and that way everything's spelled out.
Well, I will tell you, it started.
You're very good about that.
One of the things that it started with was when my daughter was young, and she would want to come talk to me. I would fly off the handle, and when it was something that was meant to be upsetting,
just naturally.
Like, I didn't just get mad. It's like she's coming to share something.
Hair trigger mom.
I'm going to be upset with it. So we learned that for us to communicate when it came to certain topics that she would need help with or questions with that might irritate me.
Sure.
She would, there were words.
We talked about it ahead of time.
Mom, we need to talk. Meaning,
this is one of those situations we talked about.
Right. So once we learned that with her, which we then implemented, she was the oldest, so that's why it started with her. We did this with all 4 of our kids.
We thought it was a good idea. We didn't know what we were doing, but it worked really well.
It did work really well. And then so I do that with him. But now to him, it's not just even a word. I can actually hold the whole conversation about it, like this.
Right.
I can tell him this is exactly what's gonna happen.
Here comes a moment.
Right, and if you keep
here we are
waiting, it's gonna get worse. So
yep.
Okay, so
don't screw that up. Oh, kind of a good point you made though is what in there was great in the sense that you're talking about the steroids and how it's affecting you, and you're communicating that with me. That's one of the sides of what we're talking about. You know something is, so you can communicate it. What about the times when you don't know something that's going on? What if we didn't know, this is our first time, we didn't know these medications were going to do that. Okay, let's talk about it taking away from the medications. Let's just say in life, sometimes there's things that are from your past that make you respond certain ways, and you don't really have a really good handle on it. And in time you will, as we all have stations in life, but you recognize that I don't deal with this situation real well or that situation real well, but you haven't thought about it yet because you haven't been together long enough or experienced it yourself. So when it comes up, these are the kind of times where you need to be vulnerable enough to let somebody know, I don't know what's going on, but I'm not handling this real well. Let's talk about this. You establish those things because unless you develop that database, you really don't have any way of knowing what's going on to determine who's in charge or what's in charge of those emotions, feelings, concepts, or ideas.
Okay, so when you're friending your spouse, for those of y'all who've just come on, you should have a friendship with your spouse, and a lot of people do not, and it needs to happen. And so you need to have fun together, get excited about what they get excited about, learn their weaknesses, their fears, love them through the good and the bad, and help build that foundation. The next one is to make them feel good about themselves. Now, this is one of the ones that I'm going to talk about myself a little bit, because because how you are reared, sometimes affects how you raise and rear your own children.
That's what I was just talking about, right.
So, depending on, I didn't always say the right things. My kids might help around the house, but instead of thanking them for the parts that they did right, I would say, but you've missed this over here in the corner. You know what I mean? So, Weston, you were too young. I changed that when Crystal was about 16.
That
you were only
noise
3.
In the background
that
was
Weston going, she did that. One of the things that Crystal helped teach me, she was probably 16 or so, And she was like, Mom, if you always just, point out the bad, then we're not even going to try. And so, and she was really polite about it. She wasn't rude. She was just,
it was a good fact.
It was a factual. And so, and she's a lot older than the boys are. And so the boys had it a little different because it was raising her. There's a lot that I learned along the way.
Yeah,
and
she smoothed off a lot of our bumpy parts.
But I still have times, even now, that it's kind of like, this is what I want from you, and this is what I want, and this is what you're supposed to be doing, and I'm not necessarily given the good, okay? And so that's still my struggle. What? Don't make fun of me during this part, because the steroids will just come slamming at you, man. I'm telling you.
Not making fun of you.
You are. The look on your face, you're making fun of me.
Not me.
So I'm being very vulnerable right now.
You are.
So what I should be doing is speaking to, hey, Jax. That's Jax is on.
Awesome.
He must be going night-night.
Yeah. 9:30.
Speak to those who, that goes to the next paragraph. So you build each other up. So instead of me telling him things like, this is what's wrong with you, it should be, these are the things that are right with you. These are the things that, this is what you do for me that makes me happy. This is where the friendship, builds and all that kind of stuff. And so you need to make them feel good. You wouldn't want a friend that comes over all the time that's constantly telling you all the bad stuff. Or
what's wrong with you, girl?
Or correcting you.
I'm telling you
or
what.
Or talking down to you. Or telling you how dumb you are.
Keep going.
Yeah.
What she's trying to say... What she's trying to say here is just trying to line it out here.
I had a friend, actually, probably. This goes back to when...
You get the impression I'm not too good at this?
No, this actually wasn't with you, but you're just being silly right now. I did have a friend that, oh my gosh, all they did was gripe and carry on. And
just one?
Everything... This one particular person, can you not make fun of me right now? Because I'm telling you, I'm not going to deal.
All right.
So I had this one friend that would come over, and everything was, why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you do it this way? Why didn't you cook this food? Why didn't you make the devil's egg with the bacon and the
Careful now, don't get too specific.
No, I am. And all the stuff.
Oh,
but everything. It was just everything I did was wrong. And it was just, so I just kind of had to, anyway, you can't do that to your spouse, because you can't have a friend like that.
Satan.
So, you're number 5. It's your turn.
And what we're trying to say here is, not everybody's always going to call out your best. But that's what we're trying to say.
Right.
When you have a situation like that, you call out the best of the person. You speak to the best of that person, and you speak it into the existence. Because a lot of times it's easy for us to point out the faults. But when you're in a challenging situation, you're trying to be friends with something. What do? You edify that person. You lift them up. You say, you're awesome, regardless of the circumstances, because obviously they're your friend. Obviously they've overcome all these things before. If they were that awful, terrible person, well, you wouldn't be friends with them. So they must be an overcomer in a variety of different ways. So you speak to the overcoming in the relationship, events in life, etc.
But you're talking about your spouse, too. I mean, there's something that caused you to like that person when you met them.
I hope it's just not their booty.
Not real well. Hey, sometimes that's what gets it started, and then you have to build from there.
They're going to sustain a whole lot.
It might. You don't know. So.
No, they won't.
Yeah. So you call it the best, but you always go back and think about, what was it that made me, want to be with you at the very beginning?
I don't know. I haven't a clue.
If y'all knew what we thought of each other when we first met, it was not pretty. It was funny. So
we overcame that.
That we did. So, calling out the best in them is, I want to call forth him to be, the man of God that God has called him to be. I want him to be the leader that God has called him to be. I want him to be the father that God has called him to be.
All of these are the most positive of things, not saying, well, why aren't you doing that? No, you say, you are that person in our relationship to me. You are those things to me.
You are my covering. I go to him for prayer because he's my covering. I ask for,
Even if I'm not particularly good in those things, you're reminding me and calling me to
Right.
a higher level, and I tend to go that direction because I lift up with your compliments.
Right.
Because I follow the flow of joy and greatness and joy. I will. People don't follow. They shrink away from things that are negative. So you lift up positive words,
Right.
and watch that person just lift up off the ground. It might take a week or two or more. But
it takes
definitely
some time,
takes
but
some
you
work.
and you pray for them.
Yes.
I mean, if you
stay
have,
faithful to that, and it does
Yeah.
grow. In every relationship book and every experience we've ever had and everything, you know that when you do those loving principles, it lifts you up and out of conditions that you don't want to be in or shouldn't be in.
These all fall in line together. You've got to extend grace and forgiveness.
Yes.
So
Actually, you depend on it.
we
what you
generally, meaning human beings, generally we, not just you and me, we like
all
this
of you
is
guys
how
too.
everybody generally does.
You, that guy in the
We're okay
Right
with
there.
extending grace
You too.
to others or forgiving others more than we do at home. And so you'll notice,
What?
I don't know.
I don't know. I just said what? It just came out. I'm thinking. I think I might have said what to myself.
You extend grace, which he's not getting any of right now because of the steroids. You extend grace and forgiveness to your spouse. We tend to, meaning, again, I'm going to go back, this is everybody. You tend to extend grace and forgiveness to other people in your life. Even strangers at a grocery store, you bump into them, everybody says, excuse me, and oh, I'm sorry, and whatever. What happens if you bump into your spouse at home? What are you doing? Why aren't you in my way? There's a lot of people who do that. And it's kind of like, so why are they getting treated less than? So you're wanting to extend grace and forgiveness to your spouses, to your children, to your friends. But when you're building the friendship, they have to know that if they mess up, and they will because they're human, that just because they mess up doesn't mean that you're going to hold that grudge against them. That doesn't mean that you're going to not forgive them. Now, I'm not talking about, if they're a wife beater, if they're doing drugs, if they're drinking, if they're running around. I'm not talking about that kind of stuff.
Those things need to be dealt with.
Yeah, you don't have
and not
to.
forgiven.
That's all between. I'm talking about just like him not handling the steroid thing right now, which is on our topic tonight. So, he needs. I'm gonna have to extend him grace.
Tell me what I need.
Lots of grace and forgiveness
There you
because
go.
you
That's
are
what we're trying to
not
say.
doing what you're supposed to. And
Let me tell you something, guys. Expecting grace is different than just waiting to receive. If you expect it, it doesn't work that way. That's called tempting. I tend to like to tempt, I guess. But
so there's gonna be times you mess up, and you're gonna
Sure.
want your spouse to give you grace. God gave you His grace.
But in all seriousness, grace is mandatory. There's no other way around it. If you're going to have a relationship that's going to grow past situations in your life that are serious, from the small things to the huge things, grace is you need to practice it on the small things, so when the big things come along, you are able to do it. It's hard to do when those things happen. It should be flexed often, because there's often times that we're flawed people. We try to do things right, but we fail quite a bit. Some people more than others. And I'm just saying that those are the foundational things that are going to get you over the hurdles. You just have to do it.
Okay, so the next one is you've got to put your spouse first. Now, we are talking about making them your friend. That's our whole point. There are so many young people who get married because they're in love, and yet they don't have the friendship, and they want to go out with the guy. She wants to go out with the girls, and there's nothing wrong with that. I still have girls' night.
Right.
Every couple of weeks, I still have like a couple of friends that I go to dinner with on occasion.
Who are you spending most of your time with?
Well, with you.
Yeah.
My daughter and I go out
other,
with an occasion.
Other people are like, I spend most of my time with the dudes.
Right. And so
Probably not a good idea.
thing is that I have a lot of friends, and I have, I could say I have a best friend, and so he's technically my best friend. So, the way we're supposed to do this, it should be God, and then your wife and your husband, and then your children, and work and all the ministry and all that kind of stuff comes all. But when you're talking on your friendship level, when you have something in your life that you're going to go to someone else with that's so rough and tumble that you can't talk to your spouse about it first, there's something more wrong with your friendship.
Yeah.
Your spouse should be the very first one that you go to. Now, if your spouse is the one that you're really having some issues with, you should still go to the spouse
Absolutely.
with love and grace and mercy and say, hey, babe, you know what? These are some problems, which is what we talked about at the beginning. And you communicate. And if you're still having a hard time overcoming, you go find someone you can trust that's a Christian elder in your church or whatever that can give you advice and pray. Don't talk to just everybody because,
No.
oh my goodness, it's not going to go well because you're going to get all kinds of stuff. Find one or two people that you can really trust, that you really know. I could name, 3 people at our church. We have a big church, and there's a lot of lovely, lovely, wonderful people there. But I'm only going to talk to a couple of them when it comes to big heart matters.
Yeah, we're talking about people who are like accountability partners. These are the people that you trust, your innermost thing. You shouldn't be doing that with very many people, and it takes a relationship for that to happen. And so that relationship can be a variety of different things, but that's why not anybody can do it. We can talk about that in another upcoming episode we got to do.
So the last topic for building the friendship is know your spouse's story.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm gonna give Todd kudos for this. His mom is absolutely amazing at knowing her family. And she knows all 4 of her children inside and out, all of the grandchildren. When it comes to Christmas, and the spouses, when it comes to Christmas, we all get the most amazing gifts that is personally chosen. And each one of us, Grandma is giving you something that you want. Well, he has always
and she lives every day that way. She goes through life and goes, oh, that's perfect for, and name that child.
That's what she does. Well, so for him, he does a lot of things like, these are the things that impress me with him. And I know he feels like I've probably ragged on him a lot tonight. So here's some fluff. Here's the fluffy part. He knows me way better than I could tell you that I know him. But I probably know him better than I think I do. But
what?
I'm just saying, I sometimes feel guilty because I feel like you know me better than I know you. And yet at the same time, I know you fairly well, if that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Right.
But there's still something, like you can always tell what kind of mood I am basically by, the kind of music I listen to. You take on the my childhood stories and make them into the Christmas gifts. And you kind of know. Now, the flip side to that is, you know me so well, and yet when it comes time to me saying I'm on steroids and I need help, that you decide that you're not
like I take it as a challenge.
That you do take it as a challenge to not be there for me.
I can do this.
So, but the reality is so you need to know your spouse's story. And sometimes your spouse's story is big. There's mine's actually kind of complicated. There's a lot to it, and there's still stuff that I overcome, and it's not as bad as everybody thinks it is. So don't. And I'm not going to talk about it.
I know when you're having
so if I'm having
Southern Maid Day,
yes, then it's
versus a liver and onion day,
right? I don't know what any of that means because you're being a jerk again.
No, you always want a Southern Maid donut.
Always.
That's a great, happy, beautiful, sweet day.
Yes.
But nobody wants liver and onions.
I don't want liver and onions
God,
ever.
that's
But so you need to know
except for that person right there. They put their hand up.
You need to know your spouse's story. You need to know what makes them tick. Well, okay, so something comes on the TV that made her or him uncomfortable. You should know what it is that makes them uncomfortable and change the channel.
Right.
Right? If there's something that comes on the radio station and you know it's going to make them cry, it's going to make them sad. Now, sometimes being sad's okay. You know, there used to be songs that would come on that would make me miss my mama because she passed away, and he never knew what to do. Was he supposed to change the channel? Was he not supposed to change the channel? Because sometimes
Got to get through it somehow.
sometimes you got to grieve, and so you know. But
that's part of it, actually.
well, because you're learning each other,
Yeah.
and you're helping each other grow.
No,
And-
the part of it was that, but paying attention to it. So
Yes.
next time, that's what we're talking about. Pay attention to the details.
Right. Learn your spouse. Learn. You're going to cherish one another. You need to know each other. You need to know them inside and out. What makes them tick? What made them, not spank their kids because, things that happened to them when they were little.
Right.
There are different things that people do based on how they were raised. And if you don't know your spouse's history and you don't know their story, you don't know their high school, you don't know their elementary, you don't know their college or not college. If you don't know the history of your spouse, then you can't really build the friendship.
The funny thing is, you might have had a really major event. I'm sure we would have talked about it as a major event in your life, good or bad. But I'm here to tell you that may not be the thing that defines a number of the issues in your life. It's going to be a variety of little trials along the way that constantly repeated themselves, that affected this person in a way that they have a standard response to that until such time that we've now can deal with it and talk about it, and they can finally move on, or you can move together in that relationship. So it's not only, they might share the big things, but you got to be intimate enough and vulnerable enough to have shared those little things for that person to, you might not even notice it. As we've gone through, we realize after we've had many conversations, wow, we've talked about this a dozen times and I never thought about it being a big deal. But when you put all 12 of those things on top of each other, it's way bigger than that big thing we talked about quite often.
Right. But and sometimes, I still bring up stuff that it's like, okay, so you know this about me. This is still, this part hasn't changed. It doesn't go away. There's nothing I can do to make it go away. So we've got to figure something out. And it actually helps me understand other young girls because of things. But the biggest thing about being the friendship, so we're going to wrap it up now because we've been on way too long, because we always are. But
it's great stuff.
It is. It's good stuff. But
we're done with our stuff.
So
you forgot, didn't you?
You need to build a friendship, spend time together, talk to each other, get to know each other, ask questions. And some of y'all don't even know each other's favorite colors. What's your favorite color? Okay, that's what your favorite color is to wear. But is that your favorite color?
Black and gray, I love it, man.
I know, for you to wear. But is it just generally your favorite color?
You don't know that?
Well, okay. My question is, I know you wear black and gray all the time, and I know that's your favorites because you think you look good in it.
Right.
But is it really your favorite color?
As far as colors go, I don't really have a favorite.
That's where I'm going with that.
Right.
Because there is not a defined favorite color.
Because I'm blue is good, but red's kind of nice too.
Right.
But it depends on what kind of mood I'm in.
But what's my favorite color?
Purple.
Okay. So.
Not just any purple, though. It's got to be a really strong.
Right. So you need to sit down and talk to each other. When you're having dinner, you do not have to go on dates all the time. You want to go on dates, that's fun. But it doesn't require a lot of money. It just requires saying, hey, tell me a little bit more about your childhood. Or ask them questions. Or why do you like this TV show? Because let me tell you, there's some TV shows he watches that I'm just like, but I'm not a TV person. So it makes no sense to me. And so, but I try to watch some with him, and then he tries to be nice and watch some stupid ones with me, and then,
And there are such things as moments. Closing out, I guess, I was trying to think about what was it that was special about the night that we segued into a 4 a.m. all the way to 4 a.m. in San Antonio, and obviously there was an event. And so psychologically, we were geared for something different because we're in a different location. We're doing an event that's in San Antonio. So we're visiting. We're going to a convention. And so that helped. But what happened was we got into the nice little snuggly B&B place and just sat on the bed and started talking. and things happened just right. But it was because we were both open to the possibility of having that conversation. I think that's where the beginning happened. Was I was like, what is it that we did? And it's like it wasn't anything more than
We just started
openness.
talking,
Yeah, there
and-
wasn't. It was the absence of other things in our lives
no judgment.
that actually allowed us to fill that void with us.
There was no judgment, and
Right.
it was more of a question and answer time, because it was kind of like, because we had been going to we were at convention, so we're getting training, and a lot of these trainings, I mean, people are all like, well, you know, you're being taught to sell. No, you're not. You're being taught how to live life.
It really
a lot
is true.
of the
If you're
things
listening to
that
it,
you're
right.
learning are applied to your life in general. So we were taking that home, and we were so that's what kind of
Yep.
led. And so once we started talking,
Yep.
we were open and we weren't judging the other. And it was like, so do you really think this? And that he would answer, or I would answer, whichever. Well, yeah, or no, this is where I think it should go. Really? And then we would have a conversation, and we wound up being up.
Yeah.
I mean, we started talking around 10, and we went to bed around 4 or 5, and we had to be somewhere at 9.
Yeah.
So,
Well, the best part was it isn't always that you have the answer. It's the unknown answer that brings the dialogue, that brings you
Right.
together. So don't feel like you have to, oh, yes, no, yes, no. No, it's about the areas in the middle and how you make those decisions. That's where you come. That's
but
where
you
go
still have to build the friendship.
Absolutely.
You need a friendship in your marriage. Your marriage, now you want to honor, obey, cherish, and love one another. Put the other one first, make them happy. I mean, my role, my calling as a wife is to make sure that everything in his life is fulfilled and that he is
You do a
happy.
great job at
and
that.
to be his helpmate.
to. You're beautiful.
Oh, thank you. And his
We're getting close
job
to the closing.
is to make me happy.
You're so happy.
Yeah, I am.
See, she won't say it, so I will. I'm speaking to it. See,
I am happy. I'm very happy.
full of joy.
I am. And so you take that, you keep interrupting me, and then, you know,
Very
I'm on
rude.
steroids and I can't think, so now I'm done. You build the friendship, but you also have to do the honor, cherish, obey, be your spouse's cheerleader.
To open ourselves up to the relationship